Hey guys, what's up? ItZMuRdA here. We've got a Game Update 11 patch note overview as usual. It's freaking late as hell right now though. It's almost 8:30 Eastern. I worked 11 hours straight today, no lunch break. I had some snacks in that, but yeah, we're really busy at work, so I apologize for getting this to you so late. I'm also going to stream a little bit after this tonight, but I gotta go in 7:30 tomorrow morning. I won't work as late, hopefully tomorrow evening though, so that's good. So we'll see what we can do. Anyway, Game Update 11 patch notes. It's here, the quality of life update. I am really happy with quality of life types of fixes and bug fixes. Those are my favorite, as I've said in the past, more so than new content or new things in a depot or whatever. I really, if I could pick one thing, I'd love to improve what we already have. Unfortunately, a handful of the things that I was hoping to see in it aren't in it. Just simple fixes to, corpse collision with running into feet and stuff like that, unless they're undocumented. I haven't got to jump in game yet. Or the full screen windowed always being on top, or things like that. Obviously, medkits bugging out, especially when there's any sort of lag. Those were among some of my higher fixes, but they did get toggle zoom last patch, and they've got some of the other things that I've brought up and mentioned, so that's pretty cool. And hopefully we'll see some of those other things in the near future. I know they couldn't get to all of them because there was a lot of stuff going on. So, oh, also the map. That's another one. While I was talking about it, I'd like to still see the ability to change my map colors separate from my facility or HUD colors. So hopefully we see that one soon as well. If I have my short list here of things that I might like to see for quality of life, as well as something I mentioned to Higby the other day, a consistent keybind for utility slot items, so that my medkit would always be the same button and not 3 different buttons if I'm playing Infill or Light Assault or Engineer or whatever. But anyway, this is a patch note video, and now we're 2 minutes into it, and I'm not talking about patch notes yet, so here we go. Game Update 11, I'm going to scroll through them. There's a huge patch note list. It's 2 posts that Loopers I had to do. That's how long it is. I pasted it into Word, and it was like 10 pages or something like that, so it's really long. I'm not going to go through every single thing, although I will scroll through them. I will, talk about the things that I think are particularly important, as usual, and not necessarily go over the, every single little change or whatever. That's for you guys to do. But anyway, let's get right into it. It's almost 3 minutes now, and I'm still not going over patch notes. Okay. If this is the first video of mine that you're watching, you're probably not subscribing at all. Sorry about that. Anyway. Continent domination thresholds, we'll talk about that first just real briefly. They made it a little bit more viable for you to take a lock away from another empire or lock it yourself during prime time by making it 75% and 15% thresholds rather than 100 and 0 for how much you need to own to either take away the lock or to earn the lock yourself. So that's fine. Why not? That's probably a good change. Then there's a resource cost increase for tanks and maxes. And these are all of the current Game Update 11 and future costs for vehicles and maxes. And the 2 that I want to mention because they're going to affect me the most, I don't really pull tanks or sunders often at all, so I can't really comment there how much that might affect me. In the past, I feel like I have I'm always at 750 mechanical and aerospace resources with how little I use vehicles and the fact that I have a boost in a membership. So I can't really say how I think it's going to affect me. I noticed that they brought the flash down to 100. It was 150 was the original proposed change, which was 6 times the previous cost of 25, so now it's only 4 times. I think that might make me hesitate since I have a 1-minute flash timer right now, and sometimes I pull them every minute, depending on the base. But overall, if flash is the vehicle I pull 90% of the time, I don't think it's going to make too big of a deal for me. And the bigger one that I see here is maxes. I don't necessarily get in maxes that often, but since maxes are infantry resources, that's almost, that's more than half your infantry resources, or I'm sorry, almost half your infantry resources that you can have when you store 750 of them. And I have a terrible habit, or maybe a good habit, of completely spending all of my infantry resources, like as I get 500, 600, 750, just on random things, like just buying sticky grenades and AV grenades and just stocking up to 40 just because I don't want to waste the resources. And then even with the 100 cost max resource in the past, I've found myself go to pull a max and I only have 80 resources or 40 resources because I just spent them all on something that I don't really need. So that's just going to be kind of more of a change of keeping that in mind, because I think a lot of times I'll be frustrated going to pull a max and don't have it out of habit. But we'll see. It might actually be a decent balance for how powerful maxes are to make them cost a little bit more. and be a little bit more significant of a trade-off for not taking more med kits or utility items or things like that. There's some new tutorial stuff. A map tutorial, I haven't personally tried it yet, so check that out. That's really awesome. I love to see new tutorial things, anything to keep new players interested and involved and you know, everything like that. So check that out. Let us know what you think. And some additions to existing tutorial. I'm just going to mention the Infiltrator segment, mentioning holding breath, because Malorn said personally on the PSU forums that he added that to the tutorial because of my frequently asked questions video on YouTube. So that's pretty awesome to see a you know, have some sort of an impact in something like that when I make a video that has pretty good reception, and then a dev sees it and says, oh hey, let me add that to the tutorial. So that's pretty cool. But all of these things are great, so why not? There's some instant action adjustments and reinforcements. That's, you know, the bases that you can spawn at in addition to the ones that are close to you. So that's pretty cool. I've always kind of complained about, oh, I really want to spawn at this base, but I can't for some reason, and yet it tells me I can spawn at this base where they don't need me. So, like it says here, you know, just a better reinforcement mechanic and balancing out medium-sized fights rather than putting you where you really don't need to be. So that's pretty cool. Why not? I like this change. I don't use VR a lot, and I usually use VR on alt characters, so it's not to increase time on my main characters doing nothing useful. But I did want to try out certain cosmetic items in VR in the past, and now I'm glad that you can. The shemags, or however you pronounce that, I'm not going to pretend to know that that's the correct pronunciation, although it might be, are finally here, which a lot of people have been looking forward to. I might pick 1 or 2 or 3 up for myself. I actually like how they look on Infiltrators, so we'll see about that. Some other, you know, depot stuff, Lumifibers and Liberator decals for your glass. This one I wanted to mention too, the camo bundles. We saw some like data mine stuff, some, you know, that they were going to have like bundles of like 41 camos, or like all the camos for a really good discount. I don't think we saw what the station cash cost was going to be just yet, but it says a ridiculous discount, so I'm kind of interested in that. That might be something I pick up if all of my characters can get all of the camos for a quote-unquote ridiculous discount. So I'm going to keep an eye out for that as well. I don't know if we have more info on that because I literally just came home and started up this video, so we'll see. Player movement updates are interesting for a few different reasons. I haven't got to try this out yet, and I'm interested to know what you guys have to say about it. I'm sure you'll hear my feedback on the stream over at ItZMuRdA.com as well as I begin to play with this. But the basic idea is to reduce warping and reduce issues with people 80-80-80 spamming, or especially macroing it, which I frown upon, but nonetheless people do it. So they did so by reducing infantry traction, giving some sort of a like acceleration deceleration change, almost like what they did with Zoe, I guess. So when you're quickly changing directions, you kind of have that issue, which is pretty interesting. And I'm not sure if circle strafing is just going to be dominant now, as it has been in other games, and as it is with Zoe Max. But we'll see about that. I really have to try it out to tell for sure. But that's an interesting change. I'm all for reducing warping and 80-80-80 dependency, even though I obviously manually strafe back and forth myself because it's an effective thing to do in infantry combat. I'm curious to see if this goes too far, or if it's, you know, a nice fix or not enough or whatever. So let me know what you guys think about that. And then this, I didn't expect this, but this is pretty cool. I've been complaining about this since beta, that when you like walk over a rock, your iron sights, your reticule, your ADS, your scope, whatever, your cone of fire goes crazy like you're jumping. So that's a really nice fix, because I've lost many a kill to that just because I happen to strafe over some terrain. So that's pretty cool as well. There's some other interesting changes in here. I think this is pretty cool because so often I stop before a tank mine thinking it's an enemy one, and then at like the last second it shows up that it's friendly. So that's pretty cool that you brought out the range from 10 to 30 meters on when you can see if it's a friendly explosive. And then this one is something I didn't expect. Somebody sent me a screenshot about it, I don't know, last week or something like that. But infiltrators that are cloaked on your faction are highlighted, which is cool, I guess. Maybe I won't get run over as much. I don't know, but that's not something I expected. So we'll see how that plays out. And then the night vision scope, controversial changes here. I personally am fine with them. They did basically exactly what Battlefield 3 and other games that have had NV scopes in the past did. Gave it a scope sway, which the one in Battlefield 3 does, even when it was extremely powerful, and it's still useful even after the nerf. and with the scope sway, and a delay when, you know, actually ADSing it, because it's a high-powered scope. It, you know, maybe you shouldn't be as quick for you to acquire targets as you would with iron sights or a red dot or something like that. So I know a lot of people have relied on these, and it's probably a little rough, you know, 7-8 months into the game for them to do something like this and change it up on you. But I almost never use the NV scope unless it's actually nighttime, and I do think that they were a bit overused with no downside, so I'm perfectly fine with this change, even though I'm sure it's stirred up some feelings and hit some nerves with people. This again looks like it's a repeat of above. The drifter jump jets, I haven't got to try them out, but I heard some pretty cool things, and they sound like they're right up my alley. Light assault's definitely my favorite class, although I don't get to use it as much as I would like to, just given practical situations lately. But I saved up certs to cert into max drifter jump jets to try them out for myself, do some circle strafing with them, or just, you know, I don't know, like it says, an alternative gameplay role. I think it could be pretty cool to get used to trying that out. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to in Game Update 11 for sure. The underbarrel attachments, I hardly use underbarrels, but it's you know, it was a complaint of mine that I would always trip on switching to my pistol whenever I had one out, because they would take over the secondary slot. So that's pretty cool that they made it to just one to toggle between them. And I hope that that's, you know, kind of a nod in the direction of what I was talking about with the utility slots, where you can just bind one key to always pull out your med kit or your C4 or your whatever is in that slot, depending on, or regardless, I should say, of what class you're playing. So I hope to see that change going in the future as well, to kind of piggyback on this. This one, I personally don't care about, but I thought it was worth mentioning. That the highest rank of repair tool will allow you to essentially disarm enemy tank mines, which was just kind of random, but why not, right? So I don't see myself getting much use out of that, but somebody probably will, and that's probably one of those things that goes in like the FAQs most people don't know type of videos, because it's just a small patch note, everybody won't read it, and a year from now I'll make a video and somebody will be like, oh my god, you can decon enemy tank mines. So yeah, you can. A light added to the C4. Honestly, maybe it's my graphic settings, but the AI mine lights, other than the Claymore, never really were noticeable to me on the Bouncing Betty and the Proxy Mine after they were added. So I don't know how noticeable this will be for me either, but we'll see. I don't think there's anything, there's just a lot of fixes in there. Here's the Zoe nerf, or stage 2 of the Zoe nerf. I think it's a pretty small one, from 25 to 30% on the damage taken. That's totally fine with me. They nerfed Burster Zoe, they nerfed Lockdown, or yeah, they nerfed Burster Zoe and Burster Lockdown, which I think is great, because I think Bursters are way too powerful personally, and I'm happy to see any nerfs to Bursters, but hey, maybe I'm biased. And then they doubled that by nerfing Bursters in and of themselves at long ranges, which I always thought was the biggest problem. So these are the Burster changes if you want to read through them in particular, but I'm personally happy with that. I think it's a fine change to Zoe in and of itself, and we'll see how it is if it's still too powerful, and maybe they'll take another step. I'm glad that they didn't go ahead and put on the 8-second timer in this patch, and want, you know, to see how this plays out first. There's a lot of changes to the heavy weapons. I'm not going to go through all of them. There's really just too much to list. It would take way too much time, but read through these. I think the Lasher's probably changed the most significantly, and it's basically just got small buffs across the board. So see how that plays out. I'm interested in checking it out myself. It's not been a gun I've used much, but maybe it'll be more competitive now, so why not? The mini chain gun exploit, if you want to call it that, where you could avoid the spool up time, is fixed, and in turn it doesn't have a you know, spool up time. It fires immediately, and then we'll ramp up to a faster fire rate. So that's pretty cool. Mostly buffs to that as well. Check that out. The jackhammer, get really two things worth noting. That the default capacity, you added 3 shots, and instead of extended mag giving you 4, it gives you +3, but you still come out ahead with 12 rounds in the mag, which is the highest, tied with like the Nova and things like that for shotguns in the game. So I think that that's a much needed change. I wouldn't mind seeing it have like 14 or something, but why not? We'll see. What did the PlanetSide one? It had 16. So the burst fire mode also is just a flat double fire rate with, you know, like a cooldown essentially in between by being rechambered. So that's interesting to try out as well. This right here is like all of the shotgun nerfs. I'm not going to read them. The biggest thing to note is a small damage nerf to every shotgun in the game. a slightly larger damage nerf to the auto shotguns, which I'm a fan of because those were my least favorite to die to. So I think that's pretty cool that they got nerfed a little bit more than the others. I think perhaps that the pumps got nerfed a little too much because they suffered from that and then got reduced to 4 shots in the mag, so you're only going to have 6 shots with extended mag now, so that's pretty rough. I feel like one of these Nova Thanatos type equivalents are going to be superior in most situations, but we'll see. And then you've got the NC max changes. Basically, they lost damage as a result of the pellet damage change to the shotguns, but they also got some damage range increase to try to balance that out. So they were personally my least favorite of the AI maxes after the hacksaw nerf, or whatever you want to call it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just not patient enough to wait behind corners of doorways or whatever to use them. But we'll see if it makes any sort of difference, especially with like the Matic with the changes. What else do we have here? I mean, you see the MCG change, obviously, but I mentioned that already. There's this stuff. If you kill a tank with a tank, if you kill an ESF with an ESF, you get some extra EXP. Why not? Sounds good to me. Gunner heading on the HUD. I'm not sure exactly how that looks yet because I haven't seen it, but can't complain there either. Now this is kind of interesting to me. I don't know exactly what this means. It's a little bit vague. I haven't tried it yet. I always preferred thermals, so it doesn't really change anything for me. But Envy no longer highlights enemies and has a longer range. I'm pretty sure it always had a longer range anyway, unless that was just a product of graphic settings and now it's more apparent that it has a longer range. But thermal still highlights enemies. I'm still going to use thermal. I didn't see the need for that, but why not? Maybe I'm underestimating the significance of the change, or overestimating it for that matter. Got a little bit larger third-person view in your tanks. Can't complain about that. I always thought it was kind of close. But I guess if you could zoom it way out, it would be a little bit unbalanced, like you could in PlanetSide 1 as well. So some changes specifically to weapons. I personally haven't used the Vulcan, but it got quite a bit of changes here. You see some huge number jumps, like the ammo capacity and the magazine capacity and how much you get per, and things like that. It has a spin-up time now, but other than that, it looks pretty buffed, so let us know how it feels. The Skyguard, in compensation for the Burster, got buffed somewhat significantly, I would say. So I'm not too happy about that, but I understand balancing out the AA, or the flak from the Burster, so we'll see how that plays out. And some other changes to vehicle weapons. I'd say the most significant here is the default lightning guns. Got a little bit less splash, and probably going to have to readjust shooting due to the projectile gravity. These are just regular sort of chain gun kind of fire things. The Enforcer and the Saron, which were both pretty powerful at killing infantry in addition to their intended roles of being anti-vehicle, got quite a bit of inner radius blast damage reduction, so might not be quite as effective at killing infantry anymore. And then the Fury Flash got nerfed, but in a way that I did not expect, but a way that I'm much happier with than nerfing the actual Fury itself. So I think that's a pretty good change. Hopefully that's what they're going to stick to, and they don't go back and nerf the Fury like was planned a couple game updates ago, because this actually pretty significantly brings down the amount of ammo you can have from 75 to 30 to begin with, and then each rank from 15 down to 5. It's cut down quite a lot. You're going to go from having 200s of grenades to only having a few handfuls, even with a lot of points and max ammo capacity. So I think that's fair. And even though I use the Fury on the Flash a lot, I'm okay with that, and I'd much rather see that than the nerf to the Fury damage itself or anything like that, especially with the implications that would have for other vehicles that didn't even really need it at all. You got the new vehicle appearance slots. It doesn't look like it affects aircraft that much, unfortunately, just like this minor addition here. But there are quite a few new slots for ground vehicles, so that's pretty cool if you want to put different types of things on at the same time. I know some people were looking forward to that. This is getting to be a really long video. I guess that's what you get with long patch notes. Sorry about that. Then there's just a lot of UI updates that I'm not going to talk about, but they improved the loadout screen, the squad and platoon screens, the squad browser by being able to see things like outfits and squad leaders and the continents that they're on and how far away they are if they're on your continent, and some description text and things like that, more easy to navigate pages. some different callout icons for people in your squad or your platoon, easier to upgrade things in your loadout, easier for squad management to see people's BR and location and outfit and if they're in a vehicle and stuff like that. So these are all UI quality of life type of stuff, and that's pretty cool. Nothing really stands out to me as like, oh my god, I'm so happy about this, but I think it's pretty cool nonetheless. And then down here, I almost never use the quick action menu or the Camaros menu or whatever you want to call it, but they did essentially buff it to not be as frustrating to use. So if you do use it, or if you're thinking about using it, that's just hold your spot button, your Q button on a target, and then you can select different things from that kind of radial menu. If you haven't even tried it out or even didn't even know it was there, you might want to see if it's something that you like. And most of this stuff, bug fixes, minor changes, this was repeated from earlier. Not worth mentioning, except that sneaky little line right here removes the death stat received when you get revived. That's like a huge change in my opinion. Not really from gameplay, but just for how KD is looked at, which is a controversial issue in and of itself and stuff like that. I think you'll see more medics, you'll certainly see people accepting revives even when they know it's dangerous, because lots of times I would decline them if I thought I was just going to die right away, get rezzed by a pug. I'll be taking them almost all the time. I'll be running medic more with other people. I'm sure other people will be running medic more. I don't think I'm going to benefit from it much because we usually play in pretty small squads. We have 1, 2 medics, no medics. I think people who play in large platoons will benefit significantly, and you'll see them with some ridiculous kill-death ratios because they literally just could get rezzed every single time. So it might skew how much value somebody wants to put on KD ratio. But it is what it is, I guess. Medics and revives and taking them should have some sort of play into the stat like they do on Battlefield and things like that. So I'm not upset about it, although I don't think it'll hardly change my KD, whereas some people might benefit from it extremely. So nonetheless, I welcome it. It's a fine change to me. I think KD is a pretty controversial topic in and of itself, so I won't get too far into that. It's never been something I played for. It's cool to have a decent one, and you can kind of see what types of players people are by looking at their numbers to an extent, within a range. You're not going to clearly say somebody with this or somebody with that is good or bad. It's not cut and dry like that at all. So anyway, we're at like over 20 minutes. This is ridiculous. There's probably so many comments in the Twitch chat that I can't see right now too. So I'm gonna shut this video down. Please be sure to check out the stream over at ItZMuRdA.com or twitch.tv/ItZMuRdA_TV if you haven't. And 2 quick plugs that I'm going to do a longer video on tomorrow. We're doing a giveaway on the stream for any followers starting at 6 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, June 23rd, so make sure to be there and be followed to participate in the festivities. I'm going to make a video in more depth tomorrow on that. And Shandara and I are going to be on Friday Night Ops tomorrow night, Friday, June 21st. Starting at 5 p.m. Pacific or 8 p.m. Eastern, just to kind of do a community spotlight for a few minutes about the whole in-game proposal thing and nonsense that you might have heard about. So tune into those, check out the stream, hit me on Twitter if you care about that. It's the same as my YouTube at ItZMuRdA, and I will see you guys soon. Have a good one.